We hear the question quite often, is a work team more akin to a sports team or to a family? When we look at a sports team, there are some parallels that we can quite easily latch onto from a work perspective. So there's a shared ambition across the team. Everybody's working towards the same goal. You're aligning your performers behind it. Any activity that takes you away from that goal is considered a distraction. Positions are earned in a team, and in a sports team it's recognised that you need different capabilities at different points in the team's journey, and sometimes hard decisions need to be made in terms of moving people in and out of that team as well. How individuals work together to form that sports team is always really clear. People know what their roles are within that team and how they contribute. But what about family? So quite often we hear people talking about their work families, and that sounds really warm, and we can understand why people want to pull on that, right? It's a trusted environment, you know people have got your back all the time, there's the familiarity and there's that sense of belonging. So we can understand why that becomes quite an attractive proposal from a work environment. But if we're not careful, there are some risks associated with that as well that's worth considering as we look at whether the work team is more akin to a sports team or a family. So work teams need different skills and capabilities as they grow. You need a different team of people when you're less than 20 than if you're an organisation of 100 plus. That means that sometimes it's appropriate for people to move on. This is a hard truth, but it's also just the reality of being in a work environment, and nobody wants to fire their brother or sister. Families are more likely to tolerate bad behaviour than is appropriate in a work team. So families will sometimes put up with a fair bit of nonsense, and that's the right thing to do because they're family and you're always there for each other. But you can't do that in a professional environment in the same way. You can't tolerate bad behaviours because it can become damaging to the culture, and you also can't tolerate poor effort. It creates a mediocre organisation. Families can show more loyalty than is appropriate and effective in a work environment. So being loyal at work is a great and commendable thing, but you don't want to take it to the extreme where you can't actually see the reality around you and you're not constructively challenging in different environments and situations. Harvard Business Review tells us that we spend around 90,000 hours at work over the course of our lifetime. So it's not surprising that people are looking to have the best experience that they possibly can whilst they're at work. When you're in a great team, you're bringing in the best bits of being in a high-performing sports team. But you're also bringing in the best bits of being in a great family environment as well, but just the appropriate ones. So you're bringing in that warmth and the trust and that sense of belonging. But ultimately, being at work is about achieving a collective ambition. It's about performance. And therefore, a work team is definitely more akin to a sports team than to a family.